That's good.
I'd like to call the Town Council meeting of Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 order, please, and then will Councilor Clancy, will you please do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sue, can you call the attendance?
Councilor Bailey?
Here.
Councilor Carbone? Here. Councilor Clancy?
Here.
Councilor Durick?
Here.
Councilor Rhodes?
Let's keep it away.
Councilor Timbrow?
Here.
Councilor Zambrello?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Forrest?
Here.
Mayor Lesser?
Here. Thank you, Sue. Before we get into the police report, I see the chief up there. We talked about this briefly at last meeting, but tonight we have a proclamation recognizing February as Black History Month, and I'm just going to read the proclamation, so please bear with me. Whereas each year Black History Month is observed in February, and whereas the origins of Black History Month date back to 1915, when Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded the organization known today as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and whereas observing Black History Month provides opportunities to gain a deeper understanding of African American history and acknowledge the centuries of struggles for equality and freedom, and whereas Black History Month also celebrates the achievements and contributions that African Americans have made in shaping our country, society, and communities, and whereas every year the Association for the Study of African American Life and History sets a theme for Black History Month. The theme for 2024 is African Americans and the Arts. And whereas this year's Black History Month theme celebrates the entire history of African Americans and the arts, it puts into the national spotlight the richness of the past and present with an eye towards what the rest of the 21st century will bring. And whereas to participate in observing Black History Month, those interested can visit www.asalh.org to learn more about the origins of the month, this year's theme, and African American history. Now, therefore, I, Ken Lesser, Mayor of the Town of Weathersfield, Connecticut, do hereby proclaim February 24th as Black History Month. Encourage everyone to observe this month by acknowledging the history and challenges faced by African Americans and by paying tribute to this community for its strength, perseverance, character, and contributions, all of which enrich our lives. In witness thereof, I hereto set my hand and cause the seal of the Town of Weathersfield, Connecticut to be affixed the 20th day of February 2024. Thank you. Next. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the police activities report. Chief.
Evening, Town Manager Presley, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Councilors. Thank you for having us. In interest of time, I will keep my comments brief, as this month's or this activity report is going to be presented to you by Lieutenant Buyak, who oversees our professional standards unit. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to him, but I'll be here present in the audience if any questions may arise. So, Lieutenant?
I'd like to thank the Chief for giving me the opportunity to do this presentation. I'm going to go over the statistics associated with December of 23 and in January of 24. I'll start off with the department demographics. You can see down there. We have an authorized budgeted strength of 51. Right now we have 44, which means we're down 7. From November through January, we lost 4 officers, 1 to retirement, and then 1 transferred to another PD, and then 2 other officers left the field, although Officer DiLoretto is an attorney in Hartford for GE14, and he's a supernumerary officer, so he's working tonight. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Okay.
Nope. Got it.
Yes, sir. All right, so I'll go over the police calls for service for January and December and January. Now, these are all calls for services. Just so out of the 5,829, 1,650 were 911 calls, 990 911 calls in December, and 660 in January. The difference is officer-generated calls where they're doing proactive activity. So that's the reflection of the difference between 911s and all other police-related calls. So as far as accidents in December and January, there are 85 total, 52 in December, 33 in January. And the slide has all the information. Typically, and this is how it is historically here, most of the accidents happen between 9 and 6 in the evening, and pretty much Monday through Saturday, they're kind of even as far as the numbers. Most of them are related to the commuting time. So one of our priorities is to do enforcement, to try to cut down on the number of accidents. So this is the map of where all the accidents are, and the dots represent accidents for the 2 months. As typical, there's a pattern on the Southstein Highway, right from the Hartford line to the Rocky Hill line, and then heavy up on the Berlin Turnpike in Weathersfield from Maple Avenue through the Berlin Turnpike up to the town line. All right, so recognizing the fact that there are all these accidents, we focus on enforcement in the area to try to change driver behavior. So in December and January, there are a total of 549 stops, 276 in December and 273 in January. And the enforcement efforts map pretty much where the accidents are happening. You can see heavy enforcement on the Southstein Highway as well as on the Berlin Turnpike, and the main thoroughfare as well as Road, Knott Street. All of the effort to try to change driver behavior by being out there, and that's our goal. One thing I would want to point out with the motor vehicle enforcement, the town approved Star Chase, and we started deploying that in January. In January, we ended up, there were 3 deployments. One was a good one on January 30th, where they did do the deployment, and it led to an arrest. We coordinated with Hartford PD, and they actually grabbed the guy, and he was subsequently arrested. Now, then there was a deployment on January 15th, where the guy, he ended up destroying the Star Chase Dart, but we identified him, and he's an arrest warrant was submitted for him. So that's a good case for us. Okay. Oops. General crime reporting. This is for December and January, and the main ones that we report on are Part 1 crimes associated with violence and burglaries and stuff like that. Numbers-wise, we're pretty good. I mean, but I like to highlight 2 things. The first one, there was a robbery. The only robbery during that time frame was on January 16th at Stop and Shop, where somebody, he implied that he had a gun, and he ended up stealing money from the cash register. He ended up getting about $300. Our detective bureau took up the case, and they identified the guy, and they ended up getting an arrest warrant for him. There's an active warrant out for him right now. He's also been tied to robberies in Bloomfield, West Hartford, and Manchester. So it involves search warrants. There's a lot of work, so kudos to our detective bureau. Another thing that I like to kudos on is there was one residential burglary, and that was on January 3rd, where a guy went up to an elderly person and had a ruse that he was cutting down trees for the Weathersfield Country Club. While he was in the back of the house looking at the trees, his 2 friends came in and burglarized the house. So it's a bait and switch tactic, so it's common. Our detective bureau came out and through excellent investigative work, we identified the guy. They were arrested in Western Pennsylvania, and we have an arrest warrant. All 3 of them got arrested. We identified him. Our detectives are going out there this week, and they're going to interview them, I believe, and do warrants for them. So excellent case on that. All right. All right, so theft from motor vehicles are always an issue for us, and will continue to be. So in December and January, 22 cars were broken into in Weathersfield, reported. Five of the 22, the doors were unlocked, so they tossed them. So we encourage the public to always lock your doors. That way we can prevent them. There's no pattern to it. We've had details out there trying to address it, but we've been unsuccessful. If there's evidence, we'll try to process it, try to ID guys and make arrests, but a lot of it has to do with just being aware and just be vigilant as best you can, and we'll try our best to try to quell it. Now, what that map is, our officers engage in proactive activity. So during December and January, 2,490 patrol checks. That's where officers are being visible in the areas where we experience accidents and crimes with the goal of preventing it. We can't measure what we prevent, but I'm very confident that the presence is deterring the crime. That's what we're going to keep trying to do. Town ordinance enforcement, 198 parking violations. That's the total amount that was called in and our officers initiated. So of the 198 enforcement actions, we're taking out 110 of those, and 97 of those were overnight parking violations. The fireworks was on New Year's Eve, no ID. The noise complaints ranged from loud music to barking dogs to people doing yard work before 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings. That was a noise complaint in the town ordinance violations. So that was the nature of that. For support services, the animal control officer responded to 68 calls, 8 child safety seats, and officers helped out school crossing a couple of times. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Lieutenant. And that wasn't me doing yard work before 9 o'clock in the morning. My wife probably would like to see me out there before 9 o'clock doing yard work, but thank you for the great report. Questions for Lieutenant? Deputy Mayor
What can I
Ford.
help you with, sir?
Not too many, just a couple of clarifications on the way
Sure.
through. You mentioned that the car break-ins, and I don't know if I have the statistic, it was like 5 of 27 were times in which the keys were left in the car. The cars were maybe left open, I think you said.
Right, so of the 22, 5 of them, the doors were unlocked.
Yeah.
So typically what they'll do is, we've seen them on ring video where they'll park and they'll roll and they'll check handles. If the doors are open, they'll toss the cars. If there's keys in there, typically they'll steal.
Toss the car, that was my question.
They'll go through the car, they'll take change. People's left, like, their wallets, their
Like
iPads, passports. I mean, it's astounding what people leave in their cars in plain view.
So on the opposite side of that, though, that means that 17 of 22 people, the cars were really broken into, not just by happenstance, like with intent and breaking and the rest of it. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. So of the 22, 3 of those were tire and wheel thefts. So you have 5 unlocked, 3 tire and wheel thefts, and the difference is they would bust the windows.
Yeah.
And then they would steal the things in the car. The key is, a lot of them, they're leaving things in plain view. Computers, wallets, passports. Our goal is to try to conceal it so that they won't break into it, because it makes noise. But if they see something that they want to get, they're going to break into it.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
So, we heard, and I've always known that the police force has been tremendous in the detective unit in particular, but whether it's the Pennsylvania man, and we certainly have heard of burglaries and robberies and there other stuff going on.
Right.
We get those information maybe a little bit more readily at the council level. And the success of the detectives unit in apprehending the person involved. But after that successful apprehension and a warrant and an arrest and so on and so forth, what happens, I mean, how do we find out the success rate then, or the determination after that happens, right? So we certainly hear on a regular basis, and I don't know if this is just cliche, but, oh, you know, a slap on the wrist here or there, or like we hear something about the Pennsylvania thing, like, did that end up to be a successful prosecution because of the work? How do we know, or are there any stats that maybe even the state has that allows us to know, like, yes, like the Weathersfield Police Department arrested these people, caught these people, and the rest of it, and then they were prosecuted and this was the result? Or was it something else? How can we help understand, after the great work of the Weathersfield Police Department, that how is the criminal justice system handling the crime that's happening in our town?
Well, I mean, as far as the adjudication, I mean, that'll take time. I think when you look at people who are burglars, and a lot of times they're prolific, so if you grab somebody for a burglary and you arrest them, if they're in custody, it's reasonable to think that you're preventing burglaries, but there's no way to measure it. So there's no way to, the answer to your thing is the absence of a pattern. I don't know any other way to answer it. So there's really no way to determine what you prevented by getting a case on somebody.
I suppose what I'm not thinking necessarily is about the prevention. It was, let's say you did the successful apprehension of the burglary that we just described with the trees, right?
Yep.
So, like, was that person convicted for 3 years, or 5 years, or 8 years, or 1 year, or
I mean,
whatever?
this-
Like, how do we find out what the result is?
Well, this is fresh. I mean, they were arrested in December or January. It's going to be a long time before the court goes to.
That was merely an example, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have other times, right? That was an example.
Right.
You know, we've heard of stuff a year, 2 years ago. How can we find out what the result of the good work is?
Well, we can look at a specific case and find out what the adjudication is. We can just look at the state website.
But like more globally, for the Weathersfield Police Department, are there sort of numbers or statistics that, you know, for every robbery arrest, we've had 100% convictions, 80% convictions, average sentencing, that kind of thing?
That's something that we couldn't figure that out. The court could.
Refer to GA-15, that's who covers us.
Yeah, so the court would, we can refer to GA-14, and they can let us know.
And on page 11 of here, you said there were 22 ordinance violations, but then
Yeah.
right above it, there was another grouping of, like, you know, noise violations, which I suppose are also ordinance violations.
Right.
But of the ordinance violations, were those generally our parking violations, or was there a variety in that grouping?
No, that was unrelated to parking. Those are different things. Those are barking dog, of the ordinance, a lot of them, I think 7 of them were snow removal complaints.
Oh.
So in those cases, the officers were in contact with the building owners, where the tenants weren't often, they didn't own the building, so they would contact the management company, they would clear the snow. And they were cooperative with the police when they showed up. So 7 of the 21 were associated with snow. And then, like I said, the violation of you can't do any type of noise before 9 o'clock on Sundays. And in 3 of those cases were people blowing leaves before 9 o'clock. So they called the police. Yeah, I don't think it was not Mr. Lesser.
It wasn't me, no.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Further questions, Lieutenant? Hearing none, Lieutenant, thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, we appreciate all the work you guys do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on, the agenda, item C, it's a public hearing. I'll first turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the sake of the audience, this public hearing is for O24-001 and is for amendments to Chapter 122, which is the Property Maintenance Ordinance. What this amendment does is it strengthens our property maintenance ordinance. The state passed some new legislation in the previous session that gives us the ability to really put a bigger hammer to some of our property maintenance codes, specifically as it relates to commercial properties. So what we're doing is amending our ordinance to give us the full strength of what the state allows us to do in this case. So that's what this is about.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, and you will see this later in the agenda as an item for us to vote on. But now, does anybody have any public comment on this particular issue? And then we'll go into general public comment. So, Anything on this issue? Yes, sir. Well, you got to come up here, please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. And this is limited to the hearing on this proposed ordinance. Then we'll go into general public comment.
Yeah, Bill Chase from 9 Westwood, and I looked at the ordinance, and I just, it seemed like the last time that they really started enforcing the ordinances was in 2012. You know, they made an adjustment in 2010 for parking violations on grass, and this is great that you want to make it more, a stronger ordinance, but are you going to enforce it? Because if you drive through Weathersfield, there's blight throughout Weathersfield. And I hope when you process this ordinance that you actually enforce it. And that's my only comment.
Thank you, Bill, appreciate it. Anybody else on this particular item? Okay, I'm going to close the hearing, and now I'll take public comment on any item. 5 minutes, and please state your name and address.
Hi, Deborah Cohen, 73 Church Street. I would just like to say I appreciate the proclamation for Black History Month. Thank you very much. And on that note, I would like everyone to be aware that there's a wonderful museum located at 952 East Broadway in Stratford, Connecticut, and it's called the Ruby and Calvin Fletcher African American History Museum. It's a wonderful place. It's not here in Weathersfield, but it's worth the trip and then bringing new learning home. So I encourage everybody to visit that museum. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Further public comment?
Yes, anything.
Mr. Young?
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. At the last town council meeting, Mayor, you mentioned or announced that the Keisha Farm had been placed on the State Register of Historic Places, and that does not prevent it from being demolished. This designation is on a building built on or around 1940s. And does not have anything historic attributable to this property, to this building, except for some people who lived there. Nothing historic happened there. Nelson or Blueskin never spent a night there, and those were the two horses that George Washington had rode throughout the Revolutionary War. They never got that far up in the neighborhood. This designation announced last week, at the last town council meeting, is only granted because of political favors and issues and other ways the state can carefully orchestra efforts to influence future elections. I bet the Keisha family, who built the building back in the 1940s, didn't even get a building permit. Next, the Little Red Schoolhouse business on Prospect Street, which was mentioned probably a year and a half ago from this podium through our discussions. We all became aware, or at least I became aware, that this little building was currently being used by the Weathersfield Art League 365 days a year. We pay all the expenses. We have no lease with them back then, and I haven't heard a word from the town manager since about it. But I figured it's time to raise the issue again, that we should have a lease with them. We should either have the lease, or we should have them leave the property, and they should go down to the Celestine Highway and find themselves a nice piece of property to rent at fair market value and carry on their business. The reason that I'm talking about this is I'm seeing ads week after week in the Way Reminder, advertising classes. This is a business that is being used, we're using our property, and we're paying all the expenses. We pay the repairs, we pay the maintenance, we pay everything. And there's several of you folks up here know all about it. But nothing is being done, as far as I know. And if something was done, I would think that you would send me a message and let me know that something has happened. But since it hasn't occurred, nothing has happened, which shows just how bad the government is here in Weathersfield. They let an organization run in a property at no expense whatsoever to them, and they're running a business. At the last town council meeting, Mrs. Zambrello, you say your name, sorry, you discussed attending a meeting with the people with disabilities. I'm sure you remember that discussion. And during that discussion, you encouraged people with disabilities from the age 3 and up to attend meetings, and how you put it was that we get more money. We get more money. I don't know who you get the money from, miss, but as a taxpayer, I don't want to give the money. And for you to come out and say you encourage people to come because the more attendance we get, we can charge somebody. I don't know who you're charging. But it doesn't seem right that you would even say such a thing. Next. Also, at the same meeting, Mr. Forrest discussed the capital improvement report. And regarding the town, and he indicated that the capital improvement report doesn't bode very well for the town, and the town is not in very good shape. I take great exception to what he just said, what he said last time. Over the last couple of years, you folks at the town council level, the few of you that are still here, you divvied up $7.5 million additional money for the town of Weathersfield.
5 minutes are up. I'm going to ask you to summarize, please.
You want to shut me down now?
I'm going to ask you to summarize. Your 5 minutes are up.
Well, anyway, $7.5 million the town divvied up, and to say that our town is in poor shape is pretty bad. Also, Board of Education got $2.5 million. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Any further comment from the public?
Excuse me, is this the right time to talk about the flag policy?
You may comment on any item on the agenda, yes,
Okay.
or anything. It doesn't even have to be on the agenda. Yeah. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Donna Crowley. I live at 64 Carson Avenue. I oppose any flag policy that includes a flag or symbol other than the American flag, the Connecticut state flag, town flag, and the MIA POW flag. Under the American flag, there is no separation of its representation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For all its citizens, the pride flag, under the guise of a LGBTQ plus inclusion, separates that group, citizens, from us because of their special group. Sadly, by allowing this to include in our town flag policy, it would elevate what the flag represents and give the group a status. Government should not value any other group other than any other group in our town. If it were that way, then I feel after seeing the immense crowd, at the Unicode famous macaroni dinner at the Weathersfield Community Center, the Italian Americans have more town citizens that would delight in a fly their own flag. I am 100% disabled American veteran. Why not fly the disabled American veteran flag? That would make me feel more welcomed in this town. I think my neighbors who are legal immigrants from Guyana, or our Polish immigrants, or our Polish neighbors, our Irish citizens would also like to have a flag represent them. We can go on with even more citizens and more flags. Our Weathersfield Town Council should not encourage the separation of Weathersfield citizens by labels or groups. Please do not approve this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Further public comment? Mike, or? Take your time.
Good evening. I'm Mike Barassa, 248 Dale Road in Weathersfield, and I'm here because I oppose the new rules for the flag, and for a couple reasons. This past year, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and run for town council on the Republican side. I was asked numerous times to run and turned them down several times. Finally, I said I would. And for most people that know me, I call it how it is, I'm fair, and I'm down the middle. Everyone says, okay, he's a Republican. But over the years, I've had Russ Morin, Amy Bello, Paul Montanari, and several other allowed their signs in our yard. So after I decided to, I got many people that came up to me and said, thank you for running. And two that I want to personally thank is Mayor and Deputy Mayor that came up to me and was glad that I was running and said I could work with you. Many on the Democrat Town Committee came up to me and said, Mike, we're glad you're running, and I hope you get on. So that just kind of tells you where I am politically, although I am a Republican. Now, when I came down to knocking on doors, like everybody, I was nervous. I didn't know what I was going to get. Got the door slammed on my face twice. Other than that, I rolled around on the cement with a dog. Poor lady couldn't mow her lawn because the mower was broken and her husband had dementia. I was with my daughter. I said, come on, we're going home. She goes, Dad, we need to knock on more doors. I said, no, we need to mow her lawn. Aww. And that's what we did. So, you know, one of the things on the inauguration, I listened to Mayor and Deputy Mayor talk about how they knocked on 1,000+ doors. That's impressive. That's very impressive. And what all the citizens of Weathersfield had to say. I too knocked on well over 1,000 doors. And two of the key items that were missing from both of your speeches, not that you did it intentionally, but it was missing. Number one that I got, and when they asked, Mike, you got to knock on doors, I said, I want the Democrats list and the unaffiliated, because I know nothing about politics. I've been in corporate world for 40 years, and this is a whole new animal. I sat with Fred, he gave me an education, and we got some great people up here, and I respect everyone that ran for office because it's a thankless job. So the two things, taxes was number one that I got from everybody, hands down, taxes. Number two, when are you guys going to start working together and stop the identity politics? That was in my top 5. It wasn't number 2, but it was in the top 5. And I didn't hear that from anybody else. So I just wanted to point that out. I've had several conversations, not several, many conversations with Mayor Lesser, and we talked about the need to work together. And we've been friends for a while, and we've had frank discussions, and with plenty other Democrat Town Committee, Tony Camilleri and a few others, and we all agree that we got to work together and not Democrat, Republican. You know, I'm against some of the rules of the flag because we talk about working together, and the way the rules were presented, it pits Democrats against Republicans, something that we want to get away from. Let's get away from the national politics. This is ridiculous what goes on. Let's work together as a town. I grew up in Waterbury.
Waterbury's a hellhole. We moved to Weathersfield for a reason. Work together, guys. I didn't think I was this long-winded.
You're doing great, Mike. Take your time. You got 3 more minutes if you need them.
I got down for 2 hours. Well, you know, in business, you make a lot of decisions. A lot of decisions are very objective. You look at the facts, you look at the outcome, and you make a decision based on that. The flag rules is very subjective. If you're going to put in rules, make it a unanimous. Make it 9-0, and the flag could go up, if you were to vote on that. Not 5-4, 6-3. It has to be a consensus. I'm a believer that the American flag should be the only flag that should be up there because it encompasses everybody. Now, I went to a cultural event, I can't remember the name of it, at the community center during the campaign season. It was one of the best events I went to. I knew nothing about what was going on. Kim Bobbin helped run it, and I forget the young lady. And I listened to everybody talk about how inclusive this town is. So here are people from the outside coming in saying how inclusive we are. We don't need these separate flags telling us that we're not inclusive and we're going to be inclusive when we are. One of the, I don't know very well, but Councilman Jurek got up and talked, and he's a businessman. And he talked about how welcoming this community was and how important it was as a Bosnian, right? Thank you. How important it was for him to be included. That's how we should be as a community. Not a vote on party lines. Now, when I talk to all the citizens of Weathersfield, not once did that item come up and say, hey, you know what we need? We need more flags. We need more identity politics. We need more flags. Some people in your party may want that. Some people in our party may want that. But the majority of the citizens do not. Do not. This is an easy decision.
Mike, now I'm going to ask you to summarize. Take your time. 5 minutes or so.
Oh, there's still one cop here. Okay. No, I'm good. You all know where I'm coming from. I have a lot more, but it's going to take about another 5 minutes. But I appreciate what all you guys and ladies do. It's a tough job and it's a thankless job, so thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Further public comment? Yes.
Karen Mann, 8 Lexington Street. Good evening. I'm here to talk about the amendment to the current flag policy adopted in December of 2022. It appears that the intent of this amendment is to allow the current town council and any future town council the power to determine any flag they feel appropriate to fly and any flag they do not, based on their sole discretion. Section D of the amendment lists flags that will not be considered or approved. As a town council member, you will be putting yourself in a position to determine what kind of speech is and is not acceptable in Weathersfield. You would then be arbiters of acceptable speech in our town. Not to mention, acceptable and non-acceptable speech will change as the town council changes each election. When a flag is flown on town property, it is the reflection of the entire town. Myself and others understand that flying any flag other than the ones currently adopted in the flag policy can cause division within the town, potentially create an unnecessary contentious environment, and will never be fully representative of everyone in the town and therefore should not be flown. If one so desires to display a flag that is meaningful to them, they have the freedom to display that flag on their property. That's the beauty of America. It is not the role of the town council to interpret the entire town's values, morals, and ideals by deciding for us what flag can be flown. The current Wethersfield flag policy should remain as written, as the U.S. flag is a symbol for all Americans. The Connecticut and Wethersfield flags represent where we live, and the POW-MIA flag represents those who have sacrificed to allow us the freedoms we have today. Any other flag that would be flown would be a personal preference. This proposal as written violates the First Amendment. If you must change this policy, you must allow all flags, not pick and choose which flags are acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Further public comment?
My name's Rick Noll. I live at 308 Knott Street. I am the past state commander of the Disabled American Veterans. Simplify. I am also the state inspector for the Disabled American Veterans and the assistant executive director. I'm going to give you a little history about that black and gold flag. Back in the 80s, a homeless Vietnam vets from Connecticut, along with John Rowlands, we proposed legislation for that flag to be flown. At a national convention, the VFW proposed a resolution and it was brought to Congress, and that flag was made to be flown on all municipal and state and federal buildings. So on the effort of a bunch of veterans, that was approved. That's how that flag got there.
Thank you.
So I just thought I'd
Thank you.
let you know where that came from.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Simplify.
Good evening, all. Thank you for your work here that you all do. And my name is Wanda Hupel of 55 Center Street. Very happy and privileged to live in the wonderful town of Wethersfield. And about the American flag policy, the flag means something, and it's a symbol that is unifying, should be unifying to all of us as we have shared citizenship in this great nation. And we need more things that are unifying in our nation right now. We don't need things that can be interpreted different ways. I just want to share 5 things about the American flag. It's a symbol of unity. The American flag is a powerful symbol of national unity, representing the shared values and aspirations of all citizens, regardless of their background or beliefs. By exclusively flying the American flag, the town fosters a sense of cohesion and solidarity among its residents, promoting a common identity that transcends individual differences. And we are all different. We all have different opinions, and that's great, and we can honor those opinions. But for our government to be not entering into, as Karen Mann had eloquently pointed out, not making those decisions for us is very important. Number 2, our flag is to be respected as a traditional symbol. Throughout history, the American flag has served as a unifying emblem during times of triumph and adversity. It symbolizes the sacrifices made by countless individuals to uphold the principles of liberty and justice upon which the nation was founded. By maintaining the exclusive use of the American flag, the town honors this tradition and pays homage to those who have fought and died in its defense. And number 3, as we've mentioned, avoid divisiveness, potential divisiveness, because it could be interpreted different ways if we fly any certain flag that doesn't represent all. We want to, number 4, make sure we are having clarity of message. Flying multiple flags can dilute the symbolic significance of each individual flag and confuse the message being conveyed. By exclusively endorsing the American flag, the town sends a clear and unequivocal message about its allegiance and priorities, reinforcing the values of patriotism, unity, and national pride. And number 5, I'll just mention, there are legal and constitutional considerations. While freedom of expression is a fundamental right, there are legal and constitutional limitations on the types of flags that can be officially endorsed or displayed by governmental entities. The exclusive use of the American flag helps the town avoid potential legal challenges and ensures compliance with relevant laws and regulations. So we just encourage that we keep the policy in place and embrace unity of, the patriotism and what the flag represents for us all, our American flag, and not make decisions about other flags that would be interpreted differently, perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Further public comment? Yep, and Deb, your second, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Christine Kelly Lasoa. I live at 37 Belmont Street here in Weathersfield. I'm here to express my concerns about the council changing the current flag policy. Everything the folks who came up here before me I agree with, so I'm going to shorten what I'm going to say. I grew up in this town. My father was actually a Democrat. He was the deputy mayor of Weathersfield. I saw his picture over there, so thanks for putting it up. So I appreciate all of you and what you do, and I also did not vote strictly for one party. I voted for some of you, and maybe not for some, but my understanding was Mr. Presley, when he came on as our town manager, did bring to the last town council's attention, we need a flag policy for the what happened up in Boston. There was lawsuits, et cetera. My understanding, the town council's role is to create policy, and that is where that is. The town manager's job is to implement that. I don't think the council should be the ultimate decision-making body for a circumstance such as whose flag can hang. I realize it says no religious, no political, and this, please don't take offense. What qualifies anybody sitting up there with all the great work you do that you're the ultimate decider of my flag that I say is not religious, but you think it is? I think everybody has a right to hang a flag at their house, put signs in front of their houses. Everybody has their views and their opinions, but representing Weathersfield, it should not. It is going to open the door for us to get sued. And I looked at a bunch of lawsuits currently that the town has going, and in past ones, people sue for a lot of things. So everybody has a cause, and that cause is going to be your XYZ group who doesn't get their flag displayed, and they're going to take offense. And I think everything that everybody said about the unity in our town, we are a welcoming town. I have friends of all different kinds. I've been here my whole life. I don't think raising a flag is necessary to say that Weathersfield is a welcoming community. It'll be a waste of time, resource, and money if people continue to cycle in here and they want their flags and they're going to stand up here like we have for 45 minutes. Not that this is a waste of time for you guys to have to vote and not have a majority, and you're going to have sour grapes, and I just don't think it's a healthy thing for our town. I think our town is great the way it is. Don't fix it if it's not broken. That's what I say.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me remind the public, you have 5 minutes to speak, and only one time during this session you can speak at the public comment at the end. So anybody else who has not spoken or wishes to speak now, Deb, I think you spoke on this item already. You can. Not on this item. But during this time, so unfortunately. Yes. Okay. Yeah, please. May I? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Sandy Kendrick. I'm a resident of Weathersfield on Forest Drive, and I thank all of you for serving up here. It's like they said, it's a thankless job. But I just wanted to, I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight, but as my husband knows, I can't shut up. So, after hearing what everybody in this room had to say, the veterans, residents, people, when you look at these flags, they represent something. Every flag that you see, men and women have given their life for, us, you, to have freedom, to speak what we want to speak, to live the life we want to live, whether it is what everybody else agrees with or not. It doesn't matter. It's our right and it's our freedom, and these flags gave it to us. If you put up another flag where no blood was shed for this country, it's going to bring division, it's going to bring hatred, it's going to bring envy, it's going to bring so much desolation to Weathersfield. And I don't mean that, I just, there's so much hatred in the world today, it's upside down. It's inside out. We need to learn that God gave us inalienable rights. You have the right to live the way you want to live. I don't have the right to judge you or tell you what to do. That is God's right and God's only. But what I'm saying, the people of Weathersfield, these flags represent something. People gave their life for it, they shed their blood for it, they gave their children for it, their husbands, their wives, their daughters. When you put up another flag where none of that was done for this nation, to bring unity for this nation, to bring freedom for people in this nation, I think it's wrong. I'm sorry. It's wrong. If people want a flag, like she said, the Polish flag, the Italian flag, the gay flag, the LGBTQ flag, do it on your own property. If you want to promote something, put your signs on your property, because that represents you, but it doesn't represent me. I may disagree with it, but I don't disagree with any of these flags. And I don't know if there's anyone in this room that would. Because if they weren't for those flags, you wouldn't have what you have today in this nation. And if it wasn't for her, and for my husband, and for other veterans in this country, you wouldn't be sitting here either. And when my husband came home, they spat on him and called them baby killers. That is not America. I'm sorry. That is just not America. Not the America I grew up in. So please consider what you're going to do if you vote in another flag that did not give their blood for this nation. It would be very offensive to a lot of people, I guarantee you. And it will bring division. And if that's what you want, go for it. But if you want unity and love and keeping this nation whole, enough people are tearing it apart. Let's start bringing, like he said, let's work together. Let's work together. We all have rights. Do it on your property if you want to. That's fine. But don't put it up there where people really paid a high price for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Further public comment? Sir, you can come up too. You can be like on deck if you want to come up too, sir.
Joe Nelson, 27B Drive. I don't know, you allowed 10 second. I just agree with the last 4 women. We don't need another flag. That's it.
Thank you, Joe.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you, members of the council. My name is Jay Johnson. I'm at 254 Windmill Hill, Weathersfield. I'm actually, unfortunately, not from Connecticut. I was rooted in the South, and when I was 14, we moved from Florida to the great state of Alabama, where we lived, where we purchased a home. We were greeted, my father and I, with KKK sprayed at the end of the street, on the stop sign, on the road, and we looked at it and we thought, this looks pretty cartoonish. They didn't invest a lot of time in this, probably kids, maybe they were brought up by their parents, but it was a nice area, so they may not have wanted us there. They may have had their preconceived notions, whatever. My point being is that when we see an emblem and we go somewhere and it's the first thing we see, that is the impression made. And as an Army veteran, don't know if they still have this field manual, but 22-100, the leadership manual, have purpose, direction, and motivation. If we have this flag, what is the leadership's purpose of having it? What is the direction that they're taking us to move us forward as a community? What direction? And what motivation are you providing others to separate us and drive us apart? I can only speak for myself. I feel confident speaking for my fiance, but I feel as though, while people are welcome, you include people, that's great. But when we have exceptions, then you make VIP status. And if people are exalted to the point that they're raised up on the flag, where people have bled, and people have died, and others who have are not there, then what do you welcome? Like some of my fellow citizens have stated, there's going to be exceptions. There's going to be a new stripe to that flag, where there's a new letter or symbol that I'm not judging, but something's going to be added. Is there going to be a change to the flag policy when we have somebody that is an exception to the group? I'm the only black person here in this community standing here. Do I get my own flag? What as Americans can we do to drive ourselves forward to make Weathersfield not just a welcoming place that's unified for everyone, so that we can stand here and say, you know what, I feel comfortable speaking to my leadership and town council, because if I feel as though I'm going to drive up here and see that KKK flag just sitting up there because people feel accepted to, maybe I don't feel comfortable to speak because I'm not VIP. I'm not as important as the people on that flagpole. So, as our leaders, I feel that we are urging you to really reflect upon how you welcome us all, because I'm relatively new here, but I've felt welcome up until now. And I hope that I continue to feel welcome to address you all and my fellow citizens of Weathersfield. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jay, and you are always welcome. Anybody further from the public that wants to comment? Thank you, everybody, and really appreciate everyone coming out tonight and sharing their opinions. We're going to move on then to council reports. Does any councilor have a report they want to give? Councilor Rhodes.
Good evening, Mayor. I have to pull it up, a report from the library board. They're meeting tonight as well, but I did get some information from Brooke. The children's winter reading program, Book Bingo, is well underway. They've got 230 children registered with 2,000 books read. Runs through the end of March. The library is working on finalizing their spring programming schedule for all ages. Library is also on the verge of finalizing an architectural firm for the library redesign project. And they're looking forward to getting back responses at the end of February for the RFP for the library's Storywalk project in Wintergreen Woods. Last thing is that the Friends of the Weathersfield Library will be having a spring raffle basket starting next week. They encourage everyone to check out the library. If you don't have a library card yet, you should get one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rhodes. Further council reports. I just have a couple. First, I attended the Veterans Commission meeting, and I want to recognize members from the commission. I first want to recognize Doug Shipman. Colonel Shipman was the chair since its inception, did an amazing job, resigned in January, but we are all grateful for your service. We did mention it last time, but you weren't here, so if we can all have a round of applause for Colonel Doug Shipman. our meeting in February, we elected a new chair of the Veterans Commission. He's in the back, and he spoke earlier, Rick Newell. And Rick, we're going to... That's a dedicated person, dedicated individual. And I'll just mention, I hope I don't miss anyone, I see Mark Rudowitz. Mark from the Veterans Commission, thank you for all your work on the Veterans Commission. We have the Veterans Commission meeting, and we have the back-to-back Memorial Day Committee meeting. And I'll just share with you that the theme of the 2024 Memorial Day Parade is going to be the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which June 6th, 1944, June 6th, 2024. So we will be using that as a theme this year. So thank you to the veterans in that community. The only other one I'll report on is I went to the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. I belong there because I'm a senior now, so I'm of age. If you're 55 and older, you can join the Senior Citizen Center, so I went to the committee. The only thing I'll report on that is on May 16th, they will be having their annual spring event, and there is an event, the title of the event is Building Communities. So looking forward to that. I don't have any other details on that. And that's it for me for council reports. Anybody for councilor comments? Council comments? Hearing none, I will mention two things quickly. I attended the Unico dinner, macaroni dinner this past Sunday, and I think there were close to 1,000 people. I enjoyed a great meal, but more importantly, grateful for all that Unico does for our community, and it was extremely well attended. And lastly, I'll mention, last week I attended Tersian Jewelers on the Berlin Turnpike, their business after hours. They're a great Weathersfield business. If you need a jeweler, we have many of them, but Tersian is a very good jeweler. Just wanted to mention those events that happened between the last council meeting and this meeting. If there are no further council comments, I will ask for the town manager report. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it very brief. I just wanted to recognize staff for their work during the last snowstorm we had. We had about a foot of snow that fell, and I think it was probably one of the worst forecasted storms I've seen in a long time. It was all over the place, and but it actually ended up what it started at, and we got about a foot here, but I think our crews did a great job, and first responders as well, staying out there and keeping everybody safe, and thank you all for staying off the roads. I think it made a big difference, so.
Yes. Keep driving safely.
Completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Sue, Town Clerk's report.
The only thing I have for you tonight is that the January, February 2024 EDIC memo and the development properties list update are included in the agenda packet for review.
Thank you, Sue. One, we have no bids. J, consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Item, is those all consent agenda items?
Okay.
Okay. Item K, approval of ordinance and resolutions. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is just an update to our property maintenance ordinance that we had the public hearing on earlier, and it just brings our ordinance fully in compliance with state code and gives us the maximum ability to enforce.
Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of 024-001, the amendment to Chapter 122, Property Maintenance Ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Dirk. Any discussion? Anybody? I'm just going to mention, this is really important. I want the public to know we are enhancing our blight ordinance. Somebody spoke about it tonight. But this will include commercial properties, which weren't included, and allow us to find more. You know, we talk about the quality of life of living here in Weathersfield, and we enjoy a great quality of life. But one of the things we can do a little better is we can enforce some of these blight situations and litter and all the things that you guys know and see. And this will allow us to do that with an enhanced fine, increased fine, and including commercial properties. If I don't hear any further council comment, I will call a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Okay, no unfinished business, new business amendment to the town flag policy. Do I have any motion? Counselor Zambrella.
I move approval of the Weathersfield flag policy as amended.
Second.
Discussion on the motion.
I'm going to go to Fred.
Fred, before we go to discussion, yeah, thank you, Ellen.
Just for clarification, what was posted online, there was a minor adjustment to that, which was that we state at the beginning of it that, as the previous policy did state, that no flag other than the flags of the United States of America, State of Connecticut, Town of Weathersfield, Connecticut, and POW-MIA may be flown or displayed on any properties owned or maintained by the Town of Weathersfield with the following exceptions, and then it goes on to the rest of the policy as was posted.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any discussion on the motion? Counselor Zambrella.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very glad to be moving forward with revising this policy today. It's very similar to the policy that was recommended by the town attorney to the previous council and allows for flexibility at the discretion of the council. As most of you are aware, the previous council chose to instead enact a policy with no flexibility, and the current policy and the one being discussed tonight both align with the Supreme Court decision that came out of the case in Boston. And this flag policy doesn't reference any particular flag beyond the 4 that are currently always allowed and will remain always allowed, but we all know that this was sparked by the pride flag, so I'd like to take a couple of minutes to acknowledge that. And we've heard a lot of comments tonight and written in about this is divisive, this is controversial, everything like that, and the decision made by the last council was divisive and controversial. Excuse me, I'd like everyone to let me speak. That decision prevented the pride flag from being raised in front of Town Hall in June after it had already been raised with no issue for 2 years prior to that. There was even an amendment offered which would have allowed the pride flag to be raised, to continue to be raised just in June, in addition to all 4 other flags, and that was voted down. Those decisions sent a message to our town's LGBTQ population, myself included, as I am a queer woman. So when we're talking about this community in the abstract, I want you to look me in the eye. I didn't feel unified. I didn't feel included. I didn't feel welcome. That controversy has not been resolved. Last year's Pride celebration was not only a celebration, but an opportunity for people to speak about how that decision impacted them. And there was a great deal of anger and pain, and a sense that the sudden banning of a flag which had previously been allowed was also marking a rejection of the people. Members of my community who felt included no longer do. And while I disagree with the decisions made by the previous council, I don't expect any council to always make decisions that are universally popular. That council led the way they felt was best, and we are leading the way we feel is best. I'll reserve the rest of my comments on the pride flag for the meeting when we vote on raising it, which I will request be added to an agenda in the near future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Counselor Zambrella. Further council comment? Counselor Carbone.
Thank you, Mayor Lesser. First, I want to thank all of you that came out to speak tonight, because I know firsthand how very difficult that is. I'm nervous, and I'm up here, so I wrote some notes. And my writing's illegible, so I'll do the best I can, but I'm really just so proud of all of you that got up there and spoke, because it's so hard, on no matter which side, every time we have this public comment. So first, or secondly, actually, no, I've had also many other people reach out to me privately who are too afraid to get up there and speak publicly about this issue. And I think that's a little sad. I think they're a little fearful of any kind of retribution at a local level, which is a little sad to me. So I would encourage people, we have this First Amendment right to express ourselves and to get up there and say our opinions, and I really encourage everyone to get up there and do that when they can. I also want to say how deeply disappointed that this issue actually has been brought up again for discussion by this council. It was a very difficult and necessary choice we made last year as a council, trying to eliminate or mitigate any potentially divisiveness within the community or any liability in this issue. This subject, and I'm so glad you said that, because Councilor Zambrella, it's very obvious that why we're here, what this is all about. We know what flag we're discussing here, because I don't think anybody for a minute thought, you're putting the entire community through this all over again to hang the blue flag, Blue Lives Matter flag. So everybody's very clear that this is kind of like an underhanded way to get that flag back up again and back into the community. This subject within itself, and as you can see from your passion as well, that it's a very personal and emotional subject, and it elicits a very strong response from our community one way or another. And as I've said before, and I said this the last time, that hanging a flag in support of one group can just feel very divisive within a community. So I, had urged caution then. In the proposed policy amendment, section 2D, subsection 1 through 5, you outline what's not allowed, right? Religion, politics, commercial organizations, and any flag that would enable violence, discrimination, prejudice, or racism. And again, reiterating some of these thoughts, so who's to decide what that means? We decide that one particular thing happens to be discriminatory, so we're not going to put that out. I mean, by the very definition that you put forth yourself, the pride flag is inherently discriminatory because it excludes heterosexuals. So the proposal goes on to state in section 3B that a flag can be adopted by council as the town's governmental speech. And I'm assuming that little bit in there is the part that's supposed to help prevent liability, while the council majority gets to pick winners and losers. The flags that fly behind us, and I can completely agree with all of you, are the most inclusive and diverse flags available to us. Isn't that what government is about? Didn't we all promise to represent all of the residents of Wethersfield? Not just a few hand-picked special interest groups. All of us are citizens of the United States of America, regardless of your race, your religion, your sexual preference or identity, or political party. And the same is true for the Connecticut flag and that Wethersfield flag for its inclusivity with its residents. The POW and MIA flag is a stark reminder of the sacrifices that have been made on our behalf so that we may have the freedoms we have, and that debt is unpayable. You should thank God every day, that for this incredibly free and diverse country we live in, as well as think of it. So thank you very much when you see one, because they have literally put their lives on the line so that we can even have this discussion. Allowing certain groups, individuals, or organizations to fly a flag at the town hall and deny others is divisive and unnecessary. If you want to support certain groups or individuals, please do so. I encourage you to hang flags on your private properties, participate in various events, support them financially, however you choose to express yourself and support these people. It's important, it really is. But to ask our citizens again to accept that on a municipal building it's very difficult. I think it's more important to offer these individuals, groups, entities, whatever, in our community the actual support. This to me is virtue signaling, and I just feel like, isn't that kind of, when you went to say earlier, is hanging a flag on a single pole in town for 2 to 4 weeks, once per year, going to change anybody's experience in that community, in certain groups, in certain... I just truly believe that this proposed amendment will create animosity and further division amongst our community instead of uniting it. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Thank you. Further council comment? Councilor Timbrow.
Thank you. I am going to echo what Councilor Carbone just stated. I think she said it great. But just listening to everyone who came out, and again, I do want to thank you as well, because I get nervous up here every time I speak to, and I know that it's a lot to come out in the community and to do that. And I also want to say that I did have people contacting me privately as well regarding this amendment. And also in the public comment, I don't believe that we had one submission that was pro changing the amendment. So clearly what was put in place is working and it is accepted by the majority of residents, or I don't think we would have had this showing, both in public comment and on the mic tonight. So a couple things I wanted to bring up, what I heard from you all, because I think you all are the most important. We represent you as the council. That's our job. It's to represent not just special interest groups or personal preferences, but the community as a whole. And what I heard as you were coming up to the mic tonight was opposing the flag amendment for these reasons. What we have right now is inclusive to all people. Our town has voiced wanting to get away from the identity politics that we see destroying the nation. What is flown will win based on council and who's in the majority or who's not in the majority. I heard that people feel incredibly welcomed and that a flag policy that is going to fly specific flags would only make individual groups feel unwelcome, possibly. So I think all of those are very valiant reasons to not amend a flag policy. I don't see personally how we could move forward with this when clearly the people have spoken. I work at the state, I'm up at the state, so I see legislation passed all the time. And sometimes legislation has the best of intentions, which I do believe that the motive, may be good with this amendment, but unfortunately, when you're dealing with things that are already in statute and policies that are already working, a lot of times when you try and amend something, there's unintended consequences of that. And I believe what everyone is speaking to is those unintended consequences, not just from possible lawsuits, but also with values and feelings of people who are residents in this town. I wanted to know, because I wasn't a part of formulating this flag policy, am I able to ask clarifying questions as I went through, and who do I direct those to?
You are, Councilor Tim Groy, direct them to the town manager.
Okay. So I have a couple clarifying questions regarding this policy as I was going through it. First, Councilor Zambrello mentioned that the town council, the last time, decided to make this policy and have it not be inclusive, and it was just fine before that. And I just wanted to, double check, was it the town manager who recommended that a town policy be put in place?
The original policy that was presented was created by the town attorney. It was very close to what's here tonight, the amendment version. That's what was put forward originally.
So
It was based upon the fact that, to that point, the pride flag was being flown the previous 2 years, and in order to continue what we were doing, the town attorney put together an ordinance that would allow that and still meet the intent of what we're trying to do, and that's protect the town against lawsuits.
Okay, so just to say it wasn't the Republican majority in the last time that decided that this policy needed to be put in place. From the origination, it was the town attorney trying to have a policy so we wouldn't be sued.
The policy was generated because of the Supreme Court case against the city of Boston, because they did not have a policy.
Okay.
They lost that case.
Thank you. So I think that's an important distinction, that we were advised by the town attorney, I was not on the council last time, so the previous council, town manager was advised because of issues that were happening in a different state and lawsuits. It had nothing to do with excluding a certain group of people. Okay, so I do have a few questions, and again, I apologize, this is just for clarification purposes. So it says in the beginning here, flags that will be excluded, religious movements or creeds. I just wanted to understand what definition of a creed that you're using. The reason why I'm asking that is because there's two definitions. One specifically has to do with a religious set of principles, and the other definition has to do with guiding principles or beliefs. And I think those are two very different ways that this can be interpreted, so I just wanted to understand what definition of creed this refers to.
Again, it's under the item of religion, so I would assume the first, but this was put together by the town attorney, so I can only...
So we don't have the specific answer to that question then?
I can't answer that specifically about what
Okay.
the intent was, just based upon where it's located in the ordinance, I would say, or in the policy, that would be religious, but.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Also, religious movements, if you look at that definition, it's social movements that aim to alter existing religious organizations. I just think that that's important to lay out, because like someone stated, town council is really, if this does pass, we are responsible for determining what is a religious movement or organization and what is not. I think that's an important thing to mention. Also, political party is mentioned as flags that will not be allowed to be endorsed with this. I wanted to know, is that political party for the town of Weathersfield? Is it the United States? Is it across the world? What is that? What is the definition of political party in this ordinance? Or amendment?
Any political flag at all that would suggest that the town is in favor of any political entity, be it an individual or a party, would not be allowed under this policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Once approved for the first time, I wanted to understand if the specific group that requests this would have to reapply every single year, and if they do have to reapply, is it under the same set of circumstances? And if that is so, is there something in place where if one council approves a flag 1 year, and then 2 years later, the group comes up and it's a different council and they decide not to approve it, is there something in place for that situation?
As it is written, the approval is for a single event, and if that is for whatever duration of time that would be for that particular event, if we're talking about the Pride example, it would be the Pride month, and then it would be that duration, and then that would be that approval, and it would have to come back again the next year.
So flags could be approved or not approved based on who sits on the council? There's nothing put in place for setting a precedent?
Based upon whatever the council decides.
Okay, great, thank you. My other question is if an organization does ask for a flag to be made, because from what I understand from this, the organization has to go to a town councilor, the town councilor then has to officially request it here, right, and then it's voted on. So my question is the organization to be made public, or is there an option for the organization to to maintain anonymity, or anonymity, how do we say it, to be anonymous, or do they have to be out there that they requested the flag?
Essentially, a council member has to bring it forward. It can be a council member on its own, it can be something brought to a council member. If that council member decides to bring it forward, they can do so. It's up to the council member whether or not they want to say why they're bringing it forth. But there's nothing in the policy that states the council member has to say.
So there's not, okay, so there's nothing that says that a organization has to show that they asked a town councilor to do this on their behalf?
No.
Okay, thank you. And then, I guess the point that I'm trying to make here, as I was going through all of these questions, and I'm sure more will come up as we continue this discussion, is that I feel like there's a lot of loopholes and the unintended consequences that I mentioned that happen at the state level all the time is no exception here in Weathersfield. I believe that we have a policy that works. It's simple. If you know me at all at this point, you know that I am a huge proponent of clarity. The other thing I would just like to bring up as food for thought, since we're talking about all of these flags, and sorry, I have to pull something up on my phone. And I guess this is kind of like just an example here, based on the definition that we have, and I guess kind of and maybe you won't have the answer, but would the pro-life flag be something that would be considered as being flown under this policy?
Again, that would be a council discussion whether or not they wanted to consider it, and then they would have to go down the list of what would be allowed and what wouldn't be allowed.
Okay, so the only reason I'm bringing up the pro-life flag is because according to this definition, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that the pro-life flag is not a part of a religious movement, and if you actually look at their symbol, it's depicting 2 feet representing the 2 hands, 2 stripes, main colors. It emphasizes the 2 lives present in a pregnancy and the love that the pro-life movement shows to both. So I guess again, my main thing for bringing that out is that I think that the pro-life flag would be something that would be allowed, and again, I think that's something that we have to think about when we're talking about sectioning out different groups, because that is clearly a very hot topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Timbrow. Further Councilor Bailey.
First and foremost, to our veterans, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. That should be said up front and foremost. I'm going to be very brief. Councilors and the public have really hit all my talking points. I truly believe this is going to create way more division than it is unity. And I forgot who mentioned it, but there's enough division, not only in town, but the state and in the country. There's enough already. I don't believe that we should have the right to pick and choose. You know, as the councilor mentioned in length, who gives us that right? You know, I don't believe that's fair. We shouldn't be the end-all on that. You know, we all ran to make the best decisions, and somebody brought this up, for our community, our whole community, not factions of it. And I believe the policy should just stand as it is. It's worked. I know I'm only one voice. I haven't got any complaints at all in the last 3 months on this. I'm sure others may have. I have not. And the attorneys, you know, I'm not knocking attorneys, but they had it for 3 weeks. What'd that cost us? You know, there has to be a cost attached to this. You know, for three agendas it was on, how long did they look this over and write this particular policy? Yeah, you don't have to answer that right now, but, you know, it's something that should be brought up. You know, there has to be a cost to that, and we got a lot of important things coming up. Thank you.
Councilor Bailey, further council comment? Councilor Rhodes.
So, I am voting yes on this, primarily because I do believe that it is the best option we have right now in terms of an amendment. I trust the work that's been done on it. And much like Mr. Barassa said, we were also campaigning. We were also knocking on doors and talking to people. And door after door after door of people that I spoke with brought this up as something that was important to them. And one of the reasons that they were voting for us, one of the reasons why we're here, is because this was incredibly painful to them. I love our flag. I love our flag. And it is imperfect, just like we are imperfect. And if it was truly representative of everyone, we wouldn't need a pride flag. We wouldn't need a Black Lives Matter flag. We wouldn't need a flag for people to feel like they are a part of us. It's aspirational. I would love someday for everybody to say, I see myself in that flag. I see myself there. And from the conversations that I had with so many people, they don't feel that. They would like to. They would very much like to. So I feel like this policy, this amendment, gives us just enough flexibility to at least have the conversations. We're not putting a pride flag up here. It's going to be on a commemorative post, right? It's going to be in one place. It's targeted. Other flags that might come up to us to be representative, to say, hey, we're here. We're a part of this community. It doesn't have to be divisive. We decide whether it's divisive or not. It doesn't have to be divisive. It can be unifying. It can be, yeah, you are an important part of our community. And if this is something that helps you to feel like you're a part of us, then we're going to support that. So, that's what I got.
Thank you, Councilor Rhodes. Further council discussion. I will just add a couple of things, and if there's no other discussion after that, we'll call the vote. So the federal government, well, first of all, let me start with this. I'm so appreciative, we all are, but I'll say it for myself, so appreciative of everybody that came out tonight. This is democracy in action. We want you to come out, we hope you come out more, and not just on this issue, but on any issue that you feel is important, because that's what government and what democracy, and democracy works best when it's a partnership between the people and its elected officials. So thanks to all of you who came out, took the time. It's not easy to do that, some other councilors, to come out, give up your night, and come out and speak. So thank you for that. Appreciate all the councilor comments that we've had. I'll just make a few more, and then we'll call the vote. The federal government, the state government, and many governments throughout the United States and Connecticut fly multiple flags. They don't just fly the 3 or 4. The federal government flies multiple flags. The state of Connecticut flies multiple. Republican-led towns, Democratic-led towns in Connecticut fly multiple flags, including the Pride flag, but many others. And their local governments, their state governments, their national governments make those decisions. So we're not doing something that's out of the ordinary if we, in fact, pass this when we call the vote. Additionally, I think it's important to point out that this is what was recommended to us originally, very close to the original policy written by the town attorney to protect us and give us enough flexibility in making decisions on certain flags that we may want to fly. That was what was originally given to us. The previous council decided we ought to change that and made a significant detour from that. This new policy closely approximates the recommended policy originally from our town attorney. My friend Mike Barras and others have said it too. We don't want division. We don't want identity politics. We want one community, what we all represent. This isn't intended to be a political statement. It isn't intended to say this is it may end up voting this way, but a Democrat or Republican statement. It's a statement that our federal government, our state government, many towns have, and it's here to protect us, number one, from potential lawsuits, and number two, it is the recommended, very close to the recommended policy we originally had. So I feel comfortable moving forward with this, and if there's no further council comments,
I'd like to say something.
Yeah, sure.
So, just with everything you've said, I appreciate, thank you so much for bringing that up. The only thing I would like to bring up is that the last council deviated from the recommendations by the town attorney to represent the people who are locally in this town of Weathersfield. And it's clear by the comments that it is working. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Timbrow. Any further council discussion?
Can I make one more comment?
Councilor Carbone.
I'm so sorry. It was something that Councilor Rhodes had said about our flag not being, that people not feeling inclusive, and that makes me feel sad, because we all have people we love and admire that are representative of different flags. Maybe we'll word it that way. So I would encourage people in our community, again, I feel like it's virtue signaling when we hang a flag that doesn't represent everyone, but I would encourage our community to embrace people in this community and to make them feel welcome and to try to do their best to make them understand and feel that, yes, the American flag includes them too. And whatever that is, individually, I would encourage everyone to do that. So that's all I want.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further council discussion? Councilor Zambrello.
I'll say one last thing if we're doing second comments. Councilor Rhodes stated that so eloquently, and I know I'm a bit heated. This is a very passionate issue for me. It's something that impacted me directly. It's something that impacted my community directly, and I want to honor that. I want to speak to that, and I thank my other councilors for being so eloquent and compassionate in their responses. So that's all I'll say. I'm comfortable with the policy moving forward.
Thank you, Councilor Zambrello. Is there any further council discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. Sue, do you have the vote?
Can I take a roll call?
Yes, roll call.
Counselor Bailey?
Nay.
Counselor Carbone?
Nay.
Counselor Clancy?
Aye.
Counselor Dorick?
Aye.
Counselor Rhodes?
Aye.
Counselor Timbrow?
Nay.
Counselor Zambrello?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forrest?
Yes.
And Mayor Lesser?
Yes. Motion carries 6-3.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So we're going to move on to item M2, the honorary designation of a portion of Garden Street as Dan Camilleri Way and the naming of the Northbrook Green as the Dan Camilleri Memorial Green. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So before you in your packet, you have a map that's been provided to you that identifies the area. Essentially, it's the intersection of Northbrook Lane, Knott Street, and Garden Street, which is the section of Garden Street. There's approximately 3 addresses on this. This will not change the address of those homes. This is an honorary designation. There'll be another sign placed where the existing sign is, similar, a few different streets down in Old Weathersfield that have a similar honorary street name. And so that will be named Dan Camilleri Way as proposed, and then also the Northbrook Green, where the War Memorial is currently located, will be noted as Dan Camilleri Memorial Green. So as such, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I am going to read a little bit and talk a little bit about Mayor Dan Camilleri. Before I do that, I want to recognize Doug Shipman, Mark Rudowitz, and Rick Newell again, who did so much work to get us to this point in honoring Dan Camilleri within the Veterans Commission, and also recognize that over $4,000 were donated to the Veterans Commission on behalf of Dan Camilleri, which is part of why we're doing this. Please indulge me as I read a little bit, and then I will tell a quick story, but here it goes. In recognition of his many achievements and notable contributions to the town of Weathersfield and to the greater Hartford region, the Town Council, with the recommendation and support of the Town Veterans Commission, wishes to honor the memory of Daniel A. Camilleri by recognizing the section of Garden Street between Knott Street and Northbrook Lane as Dan Camilleri Way, and to designate the town-owned property located between said section of Garden Street, Northbrook Lane, Knott Street, and Hartford Avenue, which includes the Weathersfield War Memorial, as the Dan Camilleri Memorial Green. Dan was born in Hartford in 1922. He attended Hartford Public Schools and the University of Connecticut College of Pharmacy. He enlisted in the United States Army in 1943, and he proudly served as a pharmacist at the 217th General Hospital in Paris, France, as well as serving alongside doctors on a medical team caring for wounded soldiers from Germany to France. Upon his return to Hartford, Dan worked as a pharmacist in Hartford's North End. In 1948, Dan opened Rialto Pharmacy with his brother-in-law, a business he continued for almost 40 years. In 1953, Dan was elected to the Hartford City Council, and at that time was the youngest person to ever serve on the City Council. He served on the council for 10 years before being elected to the State Senate in 1963 and serving 2 terms. Dan, with his wife Rose and his family, moved to Weathersfield in 1970. Dan was elected to the Weathersfield Town Council in 1983 and served for the next 12 years. He served 2 terms as mayor of Weathersfield. Beyond his political service, Dan was an active member of the Church of the Incarnation, the Weathersfield chapter of Unico, and served as a member of the Metropolitan District Commission for almost 2 decades. He was a founding member of the town's Veteran Commission and a long-standing member of the Memorial Day Parade Committee. For these and many other local contributions, the town wishes to recognize Dan Camilleri with these honorary designations. And let me just add a little bit here. When we started the Veterans Commission about 7 years ago, Dan was an inaugural founding member. And I remember the first meeting, and Dan was in his mid-90s at that time, and full with so much energy and life. And I remember how happy he was that we started the Veterans Commission. But I also succinctly remember him telling me and the others, now what are we going to do? What is the Veterans Commission going to do to help veterans? And just like we're up here, what are we going to do to help the people of Weathersfield? I think about that all the time. Not just that we serve in these positions, but what are we going to do? And that was Dan's first question when we started the Veterans Commission. And to be with Mayor Dan Camilleri was a gift. To be in his presence was something extraordinary. He had this spark of life that, you know, you run across it with some people in life, and it's always so meaningful when you run across these people with this added energy, this added spark, this joie de vivre, this joy of living, and he personified that. And I wish I knew him earlier, but got to know him over the last 10 years, and it was always a gift for me to be in his presence. So I'm grateful that we have this opportunity. Thanks again to the Veterans Commission who helped develop this. I know the town manager and town attorney worked on this. It's a nice way to honor someone who did so much for our country, for our state of Connecticut, and for the town of Weathersfield. And I'm going to ask, well, should we call the vote, or should we? Yeah. So, yeah, so my apologies. Do we have a motion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I proudly move to designate the section of Garden Street between Knott Street and North Brick Lane as Dan Camilleri Way, and to designate the town-owned property located between said section of Garden Street, North Brick Lane, Knott Street, and Hartford Avenue as the Dan Camilleri Memorial Green.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second on Councilor Zambrello. Any discussion? Councilor Carbone.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. I'm obviously in awe of a man I've never met, right? He sounds incredible, absolutely amazing, and I'm very pleased to honor him. And I guess we all received this letter, correct, about Warner Memorial. So I just need a little clarification on that before we move ahead. I'm assuming you could let me know, was this ever designated as Warner Memorial Park?
No, it was not. No, the memorial itself was the council in 1927, and we actually pulled the minutes after receiving this letter.
Okay.
The council voted to extend their gratitude and appreciation for the donation of the granite for the War Memorial. They also established a committee to essentially work on creating the plaque that is down there right now, honoring Mr. Warner and his contributions, but the area of the green was never named. It was always called North Brick Green.
I'm sorry, it was always called?
North Brick Green.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I think we can all get behind this.
Sure.
We don't want to take away a
We wanted to
designation.
check that, so thank you,
Perfect.
Council.
Thank you.
Any further council discussion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. I did have the privilege of knowing Dan for over a couple decades, and we don't often get opportunities to name various things in our town, but when we do, it's nice to see that a man of this caliber, although it's posthumously, is being honored in this way. I mean, it is true, the joie de vivre of life that he had, but this is a man who, throughout his entire life, gave of himself to other people, right? Whether it's the army, a war, a state, a country, or a town. And it didn't matter that it was under the United States of America. He gave over 2, 3, 4 decades to his town. And it wasn't even the town where he necessarily started, which was another 2 to 3 decades. And so when you have someone that is so selfless and works so hard for other people, it's easy to support the memory of that life and that attitude. And I think, and I hope that if people walk by the screen and there's a sign, and as we go forward with our community, that whether it's this person or other people that have given, and there are others that should be celebrated, that we encourage ourselves, even whatever generation we're living in, the next generation, to be as selfless and giving as this person was. So it was my honor to make the motion. It's going to be my honor to vote yes. And we have more people in this town of this caliber. And I'm hopeful, as we just did the key celebration just the other day, that we can continue to celebrate our successes, whether it's in life or after. Thanks, Mayor.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Further council comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. At this time, I'll ask Dan's son, Tony Camilleri, to come up and say a few words. Tony?
Well,
Well, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this honor. My name is Tony Camilleri, and I'm here today with my wife, Ian. We live at 60 Old Common. I'm here with my cousin, Connie Moran, her husband, Brian. And I speak on behalf of my mom, who can't be here tonight, but and my sister and our family. We're overwhelmed by this honor and this distinction for my dad. He truly loved this town. He loved the Veterans Commission. He worked alongside Doug and Rick and Mark and the others, and he really was proud of this community. I mean, the state of Connecticut certainly meant a lot to him. The city of Hartford, where he started out, certainly meant a lot to him. But it was his years back here in Wethersfield when we moved here in 1970. He just took a love of this community, and I guess I would say that he would love to be up here with all of you, because this is where he felt most comfortable in the chamber here. So I want to make sure I thank the Veterans Commission. They continue to do great work, and thank you for the three of you that are here tonight and for the others that made this happen. And thank all of you on the council today, and the town manager, Fred. Thank you very much, Mayor, and all of you. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is N1 resolution. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The next several items are a series of ordinance and resolutions for introduction only. There's no need for vote or discussion at this point. I'll just run through them quickly. The first one is 024-002, and it involves revisions to the town code with respect to the fees that are required for permits with the engineering department. These have not been adjusted in some time, and the engineering department is asking for adjustment in those fees, and also a change in the duration of the bond time we require for developers. We're decreasing the length of time for that to be more consistent with the surrounding communities. The next item, 024-004, it's also an ordinance authorizing the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices. For those of you that aren't aware, the state did pass a law that enables localities to enact an ordinance that would give us the ability to put both speed and stoplight cameras on some of our highways and roads. This requires several steps. The ordinance is the first step. Then we have to get a plan approved by the Department of Transportation on where those cameras can be. But the council has expressed an interest to do that. At that point, we would then go out to RFP to have a company come in and install those. The way that the law is set up, these cameras would snap a picture of the offender. It would record their speed, or if they ran on the stoplight, and they would get a ticket in the mail, and it's limited on what we can charge on a ticket. It's $50 for the fine, $75 on a certain, if it's a repeat offense. But then that's it, and then it also does not count against the individual's insurance, and it doesn't matter how fast they were going or what the situation is. What it will allow us to do is what they found in other areas of the country where this has become law, is it allows for us to put these cameras around that actually change the behavior. Because if one thing we know of driving around Wethersfield, people speed, people run stoplights all the time, people run stop signs all the time. So this is a way for us to get at that. So more to come on that, but this is that first step. We need this ordinance in order to move that process forward. The last ordinance change, 024-005, is an amendment to our Fair Housing Commission ordinance. It was discovered that there was just an error in the ordinance when it was originally written. It's a three-person commission, and it states that a quorum is 4, which is impossible with the three-person commission. So we just need to go back and amend that. So that's just a simple change on that one. And then finally, Resolution R24-001 is to submit an application for Historic Preservation Enhancement Grant. And this is something we've done on a number of properties, but we just wanted to get this in, and there'll be more details to come on that.
Excuse me, we almost had public comment in a few minutes, and then you can ask the question then, okay? That's fine. So those 4 items were just for introduction, and they will be back on our agenda at the next council meeting. And your timing is good, though, because the next item on the agenda, item O, is public comment. So if you'd like to come up, you have 5 minutes, and you can speak on any item on the agenda or any item not on the agenda. Again, just state your name and address, so please. And for the record, your name and address, I know you spoke before, but...
Yeah, so do I have to say it again? Yes?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Sandy Kendrick, Forest Drive, Weathersfield. The one you were talking about, the cameras and everything on the light posts, is that going to decrease the police officers that we hire?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure of that. Okay, thank you.
So we don't engage in back and forth usually, but we are, but just not, to answer your question, as the town manager, no, we're still want to hire the additional officers that are in the budget.
Yeah,
But
because we need them.
thank you. Any other public comment? Yep, Deb?
So I'm still Deborah Cohen, and I still live at 73 Church Street. This will be short. I want to voice my appreciation for the vote taken tonight. I know that this is a very, we like to say that we're not divisive, but this is a divisive, it is a divisive issue. I channeled my dad when I came to this meeting tonight and learned his lessons about how it's really important to listen, and I believe that I did that, and I'll ask you to do the same, just to listen to 3 short points that I would like to make, because I think this conversation is going to go on for a while. Before that, I would just like to express my appreciation to Councilwoman Rhodes for her words about the flag. The 3 points that I would like to make is that someone, I'm sorry that I don't remember who it was, made the very eloquent point about people having shed blood, and I did listen very carefully. What I would like to perhaps remind people of, and I'm speaking primarily now of the pride flag, because that's where we are. There are members of the LGBTQ plus communities who have been shedding blood for generations, for years and years and years. They have shed blood at the hands of violence of other people. They have committed suicide. They've taken their own lives. They have literally given all that they possibly had to give simply to be allowed to live and to be recognized and to be respected and accepted. So I just wanted to speak to that point. We always hear folks, particularly the leaders of our town, speaking about how diverse we are. And I have made this comment in the past. We are diverse in population, but I don't believe that we are diverse in our recognition of all the population, of all the communities that live within the broader community here. I can't name names because I won't speak for other individuals, but I will tell you, there are people in the LGBTQ community here who don't feel respected, who don't feel seen, but most importantly, they don't feel safe. They don't feel recognized and they don't feel safe. I will tell you that there are also a number, and I won't speak individual names, people are in the black community here in Weathersfield who, again, don't feel safe, don't feel heard. So when we're talking about our respect for diversity, we need to show that we respect that diversity. And if it means flying a flag to tell a particular persecuted segment of our population that they are seen and they are heard and we do want to keep them safe and we do want to recognize their humanity, a flag is a small way to do that, but it's visible. We can all spend the next years of our lives talking about how diverse our town is. If we don't do anything to visibly show it, and if we don't do anything within our policies and our behaviors to show it, that recognition of diversity doesn't mean very much. So the conversation is going to continue. There are many of you who very strongly stated your positions. You feel as strongly as I do about mine, and I would love to talk with some of you one-on-one, away from a political arena. I think that we need to come to an understanding of this from both sides, and I'll speak to you again the next time this comes up and you take a specific vote, but thank you for the vote tonight. And Emily, much respect.
Thank you, Deborah. Further public comment? Yes, Robin?
Hi, Robin Barraza, 248 Dale Road. So I can't really say anything any more eloquently that hasn't already been said regarding the flag policy. I actually really, to share Ms. Cohen's sentiments, wanted to listen very open-minded to the pros and the cons for on both sides. Every single person in this room has close family and friends that identify as gay, lesbian, or in the LGBTQ community. When I heard about this item being added to the agenda, I actually reached out to a close friend and a close family member to discuss this. I really wanted to know what they felt about the flag policy. Obviously, we're talking about the pride flag. And I wanted to know, I really wanted to know, like I reached deep down and talked to me about when you see the flag, do you feel safe? And I didn't get a wide array, I didn't talk to a lot of people, but a lot of people that I spoke with, particularly my family member, said it didn't even matter to him. I asked if he ever felt prejudiced against, was he bullied, was he made fun of, and he wasn't. But I know some people have been. I do believe that, and I know that people have been persecuted. I know that blood has been shed. But for those very reasons, I also know that I know Ukrainian refugees whose communities have been blown up and family members have died. I'm sure Councilor Durick, we all know his story. I have my grandmother came from Italy and were spat upon as well and called wicked names for who they represented. That didn't deter them from raising a family and growing up in Hartford, Connecticut. They didn't need the Italian flag to feel safe raised at City Hall. I don't think that we should consider one flag because that is a divisive flag. It's divisive not for the community that it represents, but it's divisive because it doesn't represent everyone. Why should 6 people determine what's important for the whole community? I sat here in November and listened to many of you say you represent 27,000 residents in this community. I don't need to know any of their sexuality. That flag represents sexuality. I'm a very big proponent of animal rights. Animal Rights Month is April. My mother had Alzheimer's. That flag should be raised in November. Breast cancer, who hasn't had a family member touched or passed because of breast cancer? October. My mother was Irish. Are we going to raise the Irish flag? There are so many things that this opens this up to. So I'm sorry that those experiences, Councilor Zambrella, that you went through, I think everybody's been through some pretty horrific things, whether it was themselves personally or family members. So I really like to implore all of you to really reconsider when these requests come up, what you guys want to hang in our town, in our state, in our country. Because although I know people are very upset with our American flag, you have all chosen to live here. And it's very inclusive. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin. Any further public comment? Anybody else? Sir? Oh? Well, go ahead. Again, I know you spoke before, but name and address for the record,
Yep,
please.
Christine Kelly Lasello, 37 Belmont Street in Weathersfield. I have a question, need not be answered, but if I ran into any one of you last week at Dunkin' Donuts and said, is Weathersfield an inclusive community? Think about what you would have said to me. Maybe you would have said no. I'm just asking you to think about that. I didn't bring it up earlier because it was already spoken about the Republican-Democrat line. I did assure you all I'm a registered Republican. I will be, probably I should just be an independent, but I voted Democrat and Republican. Watching this vote, it is so clear, and I'm embarrassed for my town. This is my town. I've lived here my whole life, and I don't care if somebody's lived here for a year. I'm embarrassed to sit here and say, you know what? The Democrats wanted to change what the Republicans did last year. That's what it looks like. Maybe you can all say it's not, but I've seen it. I listen in this town. I hear a lot of talk. I just don't think it's appropriate to keep drawing that line, and I really had hope for this council in our town. I listen to these veterans. My heart, I want to cry. I want to hug them. They talked about their flag. Miss Umbrella, I am sorry that you've had a bad experience, whether it was when you were young or as a young adult. I am welcoming. Everybody in this room is welcoming. You would all have said we're welcoming. What do I know about the gay community? I have 5 children. I have 2 gay sons. You want to ask me about them? One of them went to Weathersfield High. One did not. Neither one of them, when I asked them, do you want me to hang a flag on our house? Oh, and their names are John and Nicholas, by the way, and I'm very proud of both of them. And they're proud of themselves. They both had a wonderful experience growing up in Weathersfield, attending town camps, going to Weathersfield High School, and they love coming back to Weathersfield. So I can't listen to someone say we are not welcoming to the gay community, because we are, and my kids are proof of it. And if anybody wants to talk about that, we can. I'm not opposed to a pride flag in anybody's house, but I think you have to listen to the numbers of people here who spoke to you. Not one person stood up and said, yeah, we should change the policy. 6 of you did. You don't represent the community. Maybe you should put it to a referendum. I'm not sure, but I think this has opened up a lot. This is very personal to Ms. Zambella, and I think as someone who sits on the town council, it should not be that's what we're voting on. So I have nothing against anyone, race, sexuality, whatever, but I think you're doing a disservice to our town and to yourselves. I'm disappointed. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Christine. Martha?
Hi, Martha Keneally, 12 Fairmont Street. I want to thank the council for making the change in the policy. I think it was the right decision. I sat here the last time this vote was taken, and it was, the room was equally full of people who would have said that this was, the vote that was taken was a poor choice. It was incredibly sad when there was even a specific vote taken to stop flying the pride flag, which we had been flying, which I do think was a sign of the welcome that we have in this community. I do think it is reflective of the way that folks in our community don't just want to tolerate people, but want to celebrate people. And that was who we were, that was what we were doing, and that was what was stopped with a vote to take the flag, the pride flag. And in general, the policy itself was kind of a mess. It was cobbled together. There was a whole discussion about whether it's, what even a flagpole is. Rather than following the common sense advice of our legal counsel, we we went with this very limited policy, which in fact not only took the pride flag off of our flagpoles, but I'm not sure if anyone noticed, there used to be a flag that flew in front of physical services that supported first responders, and it said first responders, I have it here, it's first responders public works. The first responders public works flag had to be removed from our flagpoles because of the change in the policy. I would love to be supportive of the first responders in public works, and I'd love to see that flag flown in front of Town Hall now. And so I'm very, very happy to see this change, this common sense change made to support the original policy recommended by our legal counsel that restores the welcome that we have that is so representative of the warm and welcoming community that Weathersfield is. So thank you very much to the council.
Thank you, Martha. Further public comment? Anybody else from the public? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Mark Kendrick. I live on Forest Drive, 194 Forest Drive. And I wrote something, it was pages long. I didn't want to go waste anybody's time, going through some of this stuff. And I didn't come up here because I felt like I would just be redundant, just echoing what the people had been saying so eloquently before. But after seeing what transpired here, I just have to bring out some things, to deny that this is not a religious flag, not a political flag, is not looking at reality. It's not looking at what it really is and how really divisive it is. I can give some examples of how destructive the LGBTQ thing is. Okay, first of all, let me tell you, I have two neighbor girls. They're gay, and we love them to death. I would give my life tonight for them. I would do anything for those two girls. But do I agree with their lifestyle? No, but we accept them dearly, and they do things for us, we do things for them, and even they, I know that they even disagree with this flag. They told us so. Okay, so I just want to give a couple, this case in point. You take a look at, we saw what happened to the Boy Scouts, okay? In 1907, Lieutenant General Baden-Powell of the Boer War founded the Boy Scouts in Great Britain and gave its motto, "Be prepared, teaching boys outdoor skills to be good men." 1910, it begins in the United States to teach American children to be upright citizens and pillars of society. Okay, now here we are 100 years later, 2013, the Boy Scout leaders vote to allow gay youth, okay? 2015, the Boy Scouts vote to end ban on gay leaders. 2017, Boy Scouts allow transgender boys to join Open Doors wider to girls. Well, I don't know what happened to the Girl Scouts here, but anyways, 2019, the Mormons cut tie with the Boy Scouts, and 400,000 Mormon boys leave the BSA. The Wall Street Journal reports that New York sees a flood of lawsuits alleging child sex abuse. So in 2017 through 2019, the Boy Scouts pay $150 million in sex abuse settlements. In 2020, the Boy Scouts of America declare bankruptcy. Okay, and then just for another one, people familiar with Chip and Joanna Gaines, of the Fixer-Upper. You know, people noticed that they hadn't shown LGBTQ couples on their television show, and they thought it was a sign of discrimination. And so they looked into what church they went to, and they called them haters. You know, this is a family with their children. You know, they're trying to protect their children. They want family-oriented programs. But here, this article is calling them they're haters, you know. And recently, the movie The Sound of Freedom came out. I went to see that movie, and when I got there, what do I hear on the radio? That very day, there was a group, LGBT parade, chanting, "We're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your children." And they kept repeating that over again, that very day. So, you know, this is what I just want to end with. Flying the LGBTQ flag is falling into the slippery slope that eventually slides into a very dangerous area. First things, this is how things work. First things are tolerated, then they're accepted, then they're celebrated, then they're made into law, and then it's enforced. Once that happens, if ever, is taken away, and it's a dangerous path to ruination. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mark. Any further public comment? Mr. Young, and then, I think I saw your hand first, sorry.
Good evening again. Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I'm going to pick up where I ended off before. And I was talking about the comments made by Mr. Forrest at the last town council meeting regarding the capital improvement report, and he was saying that the town is not in good shape. This doesn't bode well for our town. After we just spent $7.5 million of COVID money for all kinds of great things that Mr. Forrest wanted. His associates over at the Board of Education spent $2.5 million. That's a total of $10 million extra free money that they spent. And he's got the audacity to talk about the town's not in good shape. The town's got to be in terrific shape. You got all that free money, and we paid for it. We paid for it by every time we go to the grocery store. We paid for it every time we go to the car dealership. We paid for it wherever we go. Home insurance. Everything has gone up because of all that free money that the town of Wethersfield and all the other towns got and spent it. And Mr. Forrest says that the town is not in good shape. What a blast he is, isn't he? Mr. Forrest is the same individual that he and his buddies in 2007 approved the Wethersfield Historic Society to get all kinds of freebies from us. Last year, the town of Wethersfield paid for water, electric, gas, and oil, almost $50,000. On behalf of the Wethersfield Historic Society, thanks to Mr. Forrest himself and his team back then. Not only that, we pay for all the upkeep on that building on Main Street that the town of Wethersfield rented for $100 a year. $100 a year, and we paid almost $50 because of the deal that was made back then. We wash the windows, we mow the lawn, we plow the snow, we take care of everything and anything they need. Mr. Forrest is a great contributor to the Weathersfield Historic Society, and 50,000 is not chump change, but it all came from everybody's pocket. But he enjoys it. He got a terrific amount of votes this last election. Every election he gets a lot of votes because he has so many friends and buddies. But we have to pay for it. So anyway, I think that all this money and the poor performance that he put on for us at the last town council was pretty pathetic. I'd like to go on to something else. He did say that he wants to now do some special prioritizing for capital improvements going forward, and he wants to make Weathersfield a wonderful town to live in. We have loads of people who are finding it difficult to live here due to the cost of everything, such as utilities, taxes, food, recreation, home insurance. Go buy home insurance today. Has anybody had their increase? I got a $1,000 increase on my annual homeowner's insurance, and I'm arguing with them. And I'm shopping around. But the fact remains, it's all because of that free money that you people got. And I know there's new people here, but the ones that were here back then. And we're going to keep paying. Now, here we just see in another article in the Hartford, in the Reminder, where Weathersfield got, let's see, Senator Lesser, that's the senator, he brought in some tutoring money because our school system is so poor. Our teachers do such a poor job, we have to get more free money from the state of Connecticut in order for our students to even graduate. And it says here the funding comes through the state's high dosage tutoring program, which is intended to provide students with additional educational opportunities and address education disparities across the state. And we pick up for a number of students more money. More money if you're a taxpayer. You're paying for it. Thank you. The last council meeting, we had a discussion called the Weathersfield Youth Voice Count Survey Results. As I'm sitting out here watching it up on the screen, something flashed up there that caught my eye. And it was on page 24 of the agenda, so you might want to write that down. Go back and look at page 24. It's this page right here. I don't have the coloring, but the fact is, it says comfort seeking help by source, family and school. And what they have is categories: parent, guardian, friends, school staff, coach, and other trusted adults. What this shows is grades 7 through 8, the response from the students. Grade 9 through 12, that's the response from the students. And then they consolidated the 9 through 12 to come up with a number. And here's what happens. What I saw when it flashed across the screen was, it says
Young, your
coach.
5 minutes are up. I'm going to ask you to...
It says coach. Yeah, I know. Give me a moment, will you?
Please summarize.
This is something we didn't talk about last time.
Please
because
summarize.
you're such a bunch of failures. I'll come back and talk next time, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Young.
You know,
Thank you, Mr. Young.
you're bad people.
Further public comment, please?
Getting the full family representation tonight.
That's right. I hope to see you, the whole family, all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. Alexis Barrasso, 248 Dale Road. I wasn't going to speak tonight, and frankly, I wasn't going to even come tonight, but my parents encouraged me to do so. And no matter what side of the aisle anyone falls on, I'm a strong believer in the democratic process. I've lived in Wethersfield for the past 24 years, and as a kid, I've dreamed of moving somewhere, going somewhere far, going somewhere cool, somewhere that wasn't Wethersfield. You know, as a kid, you don't see Wethersfield as a cool place. As I grew up, I experienced this town. I grew to fall in love with this community and the town that this encompassed. From spending some of my summers at Pine Acres on the swim team, coaching and teaching swim lessons, exploring the cove, walks to the village on half day, the list goes on. Fast forward I am now 27 years old and I'm looking for a house of my own. I'm saddened to say that I am now experiencing the same sentiment I once did, moving away, out of Wethersfield. This is not the same town that it was, even just 5 years ago. While many in the room have lived there much longer than I, in fact, several of you sitting up here have lived in the town far less than I am in fact greatly disappointed in the direction the town is moving. As we've seen tonight and heard tonight, the town's becoming incredibly expensive and incredibly divisive. Some of you are probably happy with the direction this town is moving. I don't get it, but that's your prerogative. And to echo what Deb Cohen said, while you stated that the amendment before us was not meant to be divisive, it was. You saw the reaction from the room. You heard the testimony from constituents. You have read the written comments. You have pinned us against each other, whether one was either for or against the proposed policy. It's unfortunate that this is the position you have put our town in, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter your position. It is my hope that moving forward, when issues come before you, that you all remember that you represent all of Wethersfield, not just your party. I beg you to listen to your constituents and even vote against party lines if that's what you believe in. But please, do not sit up there and push your personal agendas on the rest of the town.
Thank you, Alexis. Further public comment?
I'll be brief.
Just for the record, Mike, your name and address again.
Mike Barassa, 248 Dale Road. And this is a democratic process and how it works. I disagree with the outcome. I adamantly disagree with the outcome. But I don't think you're bad people for that. You know, previous I worked for a Fortune, we'll say 10 company, and part of my responsibility was to represent this company in court cases from anywhere from Delaware to Michigan to Maine. And we had the most high-powered attorneys you can get. But we're in a very litigious society. I don't know, we have 2 attorneys on the council. I don't know if you thought of what type of lawsuits you may have to represent or defend. But they're expensive. In the company I worked for, dead to right, we would have won every court case. But you have to make decisions. Do you want to carry on with the court, with the case itself, and lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, or do you end up settling? But I see, you know, just based on what's going on in other towns and cities, there's going to be court cases. So that's one. Now I work for a Fortune 200 company, and that company has gone through the same process. But, you know, one of the things that my wife and I had a conversation, I'm very pro-life, she's pro-choice. I'm pro-life with exceptions, rape, incest, the health of the mother, and health of the babies, but I'm very pro-life other than that. And she says, well, if you're ever in office and you have to make a decision, how are you going to make it? And I said, my job is to represent the community, the majority of the community. That's my job. My personal beliefs are different, but if they say we're going pro-choice, then we're going pro-choice. And that's a decision based on the constituents. My belief is between me and my God. That's one. The most disappointment I have tonight is I talked to many of you councilmen and women, and I always talk about people over party. And all of the ones I talked to adamantly said people over party. So to me, that means majority of people. And in this town, and Christine Lasella maybe said it right, and I don't know if you'd go out to a referendum, but I think on this vote that we got it wrong, because the majority of the people don't want this. The council voted for it, and we'll accept it, and that's the way, and we move on. But the majority did not. And when you guys made your inauguration speech, you said 27,000 bosses. 27, you guys were adamant about that. I'm a little disappointed that that didn't come true tonight. And you're not bad people, but you didn't follow what you said, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Further public comment? Yeah, sure, please.
It's okay, I can talk loud. This is nervous, not nervous now. I just want to say, for those on the council that belong to the LGBTQ community, your community did not just vote you in. There was other townspeople that voted you in. So you have to remember, you should feel loved by the town of Weathersfield that voted you in. It wasn't just your community that voted you in, it was townspeople that voted you in. So feel loved by us, okay? Because you're in for it. So it wasn't just your community, because I don't think there's enough to vote you in compared to as many other. You were voted in by other townspeople. So feel loved by the town, okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Further public, yes.
I'll be very brief.
Name and address again, I know you-
Wanda Hooper, 55 Center. All right, just speaking regarding the thought that a flag is needed to feel valued and loved, I think we need to get over the notion that we need to put out ideologies to tell people that we love you. We are Americans, we are human beings, we are made in God's image. In my belief, we are all made in God's image and very precious. From, like Horton, here's a who, as Dr. Seuss said it, a person's a person, no matter how small. I love Brianna Timbro's comment. Well, how about a flag that, now that we have this ordinance going through, how I ask maybe we need to put a pro-life flag up there as well, because they are every bit as precious as human beings. But really, we don't need to have a flag to say that you are loved and you are valued and precious. And I hope as a nation that we can get over the thought that because a person may disagree with a worldview or an ideology, it doesn't mean we don't love you and value you as a person. And we don't need a flag to say that we value you and that we love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Further public comment? Hearing none, let me just say before we go into executive session, thank you to all of you who came out tonight. I said it before, this is democracy. We want to hear from you. We won't always agree, but as I said before, when we engage together, it's a better community, better democracy, even though sometimes we disagree. So thank you. Hope to see you again. Barrasa's whole family, keep coming. But thank you all for coming, and I'll take a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Into executive session. Thank you, everybody.